Always live, always wild. Hi everyone and welcome to the Africam show. I'm so excited to be back home, and that means back with all of you, spending wonderful time as usual in the African bush. And we're starting off here at Rosie's Pan. Rosie's Pan has been so busy today, and we still have one visitor, a lovely hippo, chilling in Rosie's Pan. Amber Co, you say happy Tuesday to all, and thank you to Trish. Thank you, Amber Co. I get so excited to see or to hear all your names again. Obviously, I have been doing other shows, but I haven't been on the Africam show for a few weeks, and I miss it. Really do. So thank you for sending through questions and comments like you just have, Amber Co. And Zygote as well. You say hi, Trishala Naidu. Namaste. Namaste to you too, Zygote. And if you are unsure how this is happening, it's because we're live and interactive, so you can send through whatever you like and tell me how you're enjoying the Africam show this afternoon. Now I'm just getting back into the swing of things after being in the bush for a couple of weeks. And I'm always thankful for the opportunity to spend time watching the cameras. Mr. H, UAE, you said you had a birthday yesterday. Was it your birthday yesterday? Or are you talking about somebody else? Well, if it was your birthday yesterday, a happy birthday to you for yesterday. Bridget McKinney, you say hello everyone. Hello Bridget. Gert in the Netherlands, you say good day Trish et al. I like that. A good day from Holland. A good day to you too. Now things look really peaceful at Rosie's Pan this afternoon. And I'm sure this hippo is very thankful that the elephant herds have moved off. Hippos can be very, very territorial, and the majority of their territory is watery. So it's water bodies. Now you may find that if you've ever taken a walk in the bush, or maybe you've just taken a drive in the certain parts that the hippos use, you'll see that they would have been spraying dung along the way as they leave their watery homes and go off to graze in the evenings. And then you'll see that they're obviously territorial on land as well to some extent, because that spraying the dung is a form of marking their territory. But in the water, they are most territorial. Now, when we say territorial, we usually mean that an animal is defending a particular area against its conspecific. So against the same animal, and usually against the same sex. Because if they were, defending a territory against the opposite sex as well, it wouldn't make sense, because then they wouldn't have very many mating opportunities. But with hippos, they don't just not like other hippos, or other male hippos specifically, or females if they are females. They seem to not really like to share their watery homes with anybody. And so when elephants come through like they have earlier at Rosie's Pan, the hippos can get really defensive. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because those water bodies are much smaller compared to the rest of the expanse of the land where other animals are able to roam. The hippos get really protective over their territory, even against other species. Oh, grumpy old man, you say, it's her, Trishala. Yes, it's me, Trishala. And so nice to hear all your names. Marie-Claude, you say, good afternoon, everyone from France. A good afternoon to you. Bob from Kalamazoo. Hello, Bob. You say, welcome back, my friend. Thank you. It's lovely to be here. Becky WV, you say, good morning, all. You're here with your coffee. Yes. And then Kauru, you say, hi, Trishala. You have milk and banana bread today. Oh, nice combo. I like it very much. Well, things are very quiet here at Rosie's. We have just this boulder of a hippo. So maybe we can move across to one of the other cameras, perhaps Stony Point. Now this hippo looks very, very boulder-like. And look, the hippo transformed into an African penguin. As I live and breathe, they can transform into each other. Look at this one. Now, I must say, so I'm here in the Western Cape, not very far from Stony Point, about 90 to 100 kilometers from Stony Point, which is where this penguin is resting. And the temperatures have been fantastic. You would have often heard me complain about the temperatures here in the Western Cape, windy and cold. But since I've come back from the bush, so just a couple of days, it has been warm and still, and it really feels like summer is upon us. I mean, the last couple of evenings, there weren't bellowing winds that were throwing up the curtains in the rooms. It was lovely. So, and apart from that, okay, we diverge a little bit, but my plants are doing so well because the ambient temperatures are higher and there's less wind to contend with. But the reason I thought about that is I'm looking at this June spinach, which is the plant that this African penguin is leaning against right here. Now, June spinach is a really hardy plant. They have nice thick leaves, a little bit salty, as you would expect for vegetation close to the coast, and very juicy. But because they're so hardy, they can withstand quite a bit of that wind. You can see they're dense, quite low to the ground, although they do get taller as well, but still very, very dense. So that helps them to withstand the wind. But it seems that all the plants everywhere is just enjoying the increase in ambient temperatures. I mean, this June spinach looks amazing. It's even started to flower a little bit. You can see the yellowy bits. And our African penguin is taking advantage of the mats of June spinach all around. New York girl, you say it's early here on the West Coast, but a hello to everyone, a hello to you, a good morning, a very early good morning, I should say. Suspiria Inferno, you say you like to gaze at the hippopo. The hippopo didn't like to gaze at you, unfortunately. It wanted to just remain hidden, which is also fine. I mean, I'm speaking about temperatures here in the Western Cape, and I'm saying it's nice and very summery, but it is nothing compared to up in the Lowveld where we were watching that hippo. The temperatures there are absolutely scorching, and so the hippo would remain hidden as much as it can during the day to try and keep its delicate skin from getting too dehydrated or desiccated. Jirel, you say you've been missing me, and you're happy to hear my lovely voice this AM, and you're enjoying some splendid coffee. Nice to hear it. Very nice. Mateo Ritchie, you say hello from Canada. A hello to you. Mindy Tillapau. So nice to hear your name. You say we had our first snow last night here in the US. You know, having lived the majority of my life in Africa, I'm really not used to this idea of the snows coming. One day I will have a winter wonderland Christmas somewhere in the world. Rolling Trouble, you say, woohoo, Trishala is back. Trishala is back. Yes, she is. I was just saying to Kirst before, or as we were doing checks to start the Africam show, I said I was having a pretty average day. Like, pretty average. My face was pretty much like this Dusty's face. Possibly not as intense. But when I jumped on board to do the checks of the show, suddenly everything just perked up. And that's what spending time in nature has the ability to do. Now you can see the two adults here, and I see at least 3 little ones. You can see one in the top left, and then 2 playing around there in the little tiny cave area. Very, very sweet. Lots going on at Stony Point, or I should say lots of animals, but everyone is just chilling. A little bit of a breeze catching them. So we spoke about the June spinach and the plants in this area. They are able to withstand a whole lot of wind because that's the environment in which they grow. so they tend to be very dense and sturdy. And the same sort of goes for the animals that thrive in those areas as well. If they took up too much surface area, the wind could be possibly a lot more irritating. If you're smaller and you're able to get into little crevices, that's very helpful, especially if you're living on the coast, like these Dassies. Oh, just responded to me saying Dassie. Sorry, did you prefer to be called rock hyrax? I can do that too. They have such interesting faces. But these, so on the coast, you tend to get a little bit more wind action, and that's because you get the air coming off the sea that's a different temperature, and then as the pressures change and the temperatures change, it causes a lot of wind action. So animals need to be equipped for that. Anyway, we have now moved over to Naledi, where we have an impala. Now, I believe that you have seen a leopard with her cub recently. It was at Naledi. I think it was at Naledi. I can't remember now, but it was the Rosie's Pan female and her little cub. Now, I would be lying if I wasn't hoping that coming over here it was because there was a leopard, although I'm very thankful to see an impala too. Actually, haven't been seeing very many impala, surprisingly. During my last time in the bush, but I saw plenty of zebra and blesbok and black wildebeest. So different to what we usually see up in the Lowveld, because I was not in the Lowveld, I was in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. So different type of, well, flora and fauna. And there's something about seeing the humble impala that makes you want to become quite nostalgic. There's something about the impala that just reminds me of being up in what I like to call the real bush, but don't tell the Eastern Cape that, or the Western Cape that. I am a fan of the Mpumalanga Limpopo kind of band of vegetation, far more than the Capes. We'll keep that to ourselves though. Now it doesn't look, well, I say looks can be deceiving. It doesn't look very warm there at the moment, and I say that because there's quite a bit of movement with the leaves. So at least there's a nice breeze, but as you can see, this impala is still seeking out shade. I just went quiet there because I could hear the Diederik's cuckoo. One of my favorite sounds of summer. You see this quite a lot, antelope seeking out bits of shade when it gets very hot, but it's actually not necessary for them. They cope really well in the heat, unlike predators. Sometimes you might even see them standing next to each other, casting shade on each other, which I find quite interesting. You'll especially see it with like mothers and calves. But they tend to do very well, even in the heat of the day. Some antelope are much better equipped biologically, or I should say physiologically, to deal with the heat, but all around, antelope are much better at it than predators. The consumption of meat and their particular digestive system when it comes to predators creates a lot of heat, metabolic heat in the body. So apart from that, they exert a lot of energy when they chase down prey. And that means that they're using far more energy throughout the entire process of being alive for that day. So whether that's eating, pursuing, digesting, than a herbivore does. So they tend to get affected by the heat a lot more than the antelopes. Anyway, we've got some nice questions from Bridget McKenney and from Matteo Ricci about the hyraxes. So how about we head over again to Stony Point and spend some time with them while we chat about the hyraxes. There we go. Oh my goodness. This is probably the most dussies I have ever seen at Stony Point in one eyeful. Let's count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. At least 19, possibly 20. That is a whole lot. Wow. So Bridget McKinney, you wanted to know how many babies do hyraxes have? So they're variable, but they tend to have about 1 to 4 pups at a time. I've most often seen 2 or 3. And then Matteo, you wanted to know, do the hyraxes eat the plants growing down below? I have seen them nibbling on these plants. Definitely, they are herbivores and they eat quite a huge different variety of things from grasses, they'll eat leaves of trees, they might dig for little forbs. I mean, if we look at the one at the top there, that one looks like it's actually eating the plants that are cascading down, the dune spinach and its like. They're definitely having a go at those plants. That makes sense because there isn't too much variety in terms of the vegetation here at Stony Point, particularly where the Dussies live. So they're going to, one, have to make the most of the vegetation that's around them, but also, if there wasn't appropriate vegetation around for them to eat, they most likely would not be hanging out here. Oh, look at this little one trying to clean itself, leg up in the air. So young Dussies, I'm not sure when the first time we saw these little pups was, but they become sexually mature between a year and a year and a half, somewhere around there. So it's quite a significant amount of investment from the adults, considering how small the animal is. As a general trend, and there are definitely exceptions to it, like with the Dussies, as a general trend, those smaller animals tend to reproduce more often and have more offspring in one go. But with Dussies, they really are the exception. They don't produce very many offspring at once, and they have quite a high amount of parental investment. Here we go. Right here, Matteo, you don't have to take my word for it. The Dussie is showing us that it's definitely eating the vegetation around. They're actually pretty dexterous if you look at the way that they move around. So they've got padded feet, and that allows them to get quite a significant amount of grip on the rocks that they traverse or the twigs that they need to get over. Oh, this one's chomping away. I find it interesting watching herbivores eat because some herbivores, it's as if they don't look at what they're eating, they just keep on going. Like wildebeest or impala, or not impala, buffalo. You know, they just kind of vacuum cleaner the area. But then others, like if you watch a kudu eating, or if you're watching this dasi right now, tumble down. What makes them eat that one and not the leaf next to it, you know? And sometimes it looks like they really don't want that particular leaf, but they're going to eat this leaf, and to us it kind of looks all the same. But there's a lot of preference going on, which I find very, very interesting. Different plants have different defenses, and that could play a role in what affects their preference, whether they've got extra tannins in that particular leaf compared to the other leaf, things like that could affect preference. But there aren't a whole lot of animals that can detect the presence of those kinds of molecules before actually tasting it. Now, elephants can, and we know that elephants and dassies are more closely related than any other animal to an elephant. So maybe they've also got such a heightened sense of smell that they can pick up on these pre-ingestive cues, which basically means things that they can, information they can get before they have to consume something. Or maybe this is just a fussy dussie. Jirel, you say you invite me to Toronto for a winter wonderland. Thank you very much. Snow, ice, and you'll take me to see a... No, don't say that. Karu, don't say that. Oh, this is Jirel. Sorry, Karu, your question is underneath there. Jirel, you say that you're going to take me to see a very large Canadian moose. Do you know that? I'm sure you know, seeing a moose is my dream. You say there must be some wildlife that could encourage me to come to Canada. I have been to Toronto, actually, Jirel, twice before, but I didn't spend, it was not in the winter. Yes, and I was a lot younger. I think I was, first time I was like 8, second time I was about 12. But I'll tell you what, I'll let you know if I come to Toronto again. So many dassies. Well, I'm glad that we were able to actually see them eating the vegetation in this area so you could see firsthand. I always find that when you're able to see firsthand an animal doing something, or even if you can hear a bird call and you can see the bird calling, it helps you a lot to keep that in your memory bank. So now we know that the dassies definitely eat the vegetation around here. They're not going somewhere else. We already knew they were vegetarian or they were herbivores, but they're not going somewhere else. They're very happily consuming the vegetation around them. And I promise you, you're not going to forget it because you saw it with your own eyes. Anyway, Kauru, your question was right underneath Jirel's invite. You wanted to know about impalas and the horns. So how about we head back up to, oh, not back up, we haven't visited El Doño yet, this Africam show. So let's head up to El Doño. I love going to El Doño. There we go. Oh, we have some impala right here to help you out. Karu, you want to know, why do impala male subadult horns form almost a full circle inward, and how do they change shape? So we call this shape lyre shaped because oh, this is so hard to do without you being able to see me. So what happens if you can imagine the horns come together, like you say, almost forming a circle. So the one that's to the left was getting closer to that. It's just gone out of our view now. But it comes together in a circle and it almost touches before it moves out again. But the thing is, the actual direction of the top of the horn is not changing because all the growth is happening at the base of the horn. So much like a piece of hair, that's how antelope horns grow. So the end of it is the oldest part, and the base of it is the newest part. So this guy here, this one's still pretty young. So this one's horns are going to widen, and then they're going to turn inwards to look like a circle on the head, which is what you're describing, Karu. And then from the base of the horn, it will begin to turn outwards. And it's the turn from the base of the horn that creates the shape. Because once that turn happens, more growth is also happening. And then you end up with that lyre shape. Because once it turns, it's so hard to do without you seeing my hand. So as it turns, okay, there we go. There we have one there. It's in a circle, right? Now imagine my hand's at the base of the horn. We turn it outwards. But then once it's turned outwards, we continue to grow straight. Then you end up with that typical lyre shape. But there's no specific reason as such that I can think of for why they form that full circle, apart from it just being part of the growth pattern. So a lot of the time, the things that we see in nature don't have to necessarily have a reason. They don't necessarily have to have a use. What they do need to do, though, is to not be threatening to the animal in any way, not cause any trouble. So, there we go. If you see from the side, it's already started to turn. The base has already started to turn out, but because we're looking at it flat on, it looks like it's about to touch. So as I was saying, a lot of things in nature don't have to have a particular use. As long as it doesn't cause any trouble for the animal, it can persist. So in this case, if the horns continue to grow and then almost touched at the end and then they touched, that would be problematic for the animal. But they don't touch, they just turn outwards. Now it could be that at some point they did touch, and those animals who had the horns touching died off and were not able to procreate and send their genes on to the next generations. But now it just almost touches and moves off. So as long as a certain trait or characteristic and those things arise out of genetic mutations or changes, but as long as those things don't cause any problems for the animal, it can persist. It doesn't have to particularly be a useful trait or characteristic. Physical trait or characteristic, I should say. The green at Aldonio is really catching my eye. You can see that the new grass is so bright green. So beautiful. Now I wonder, have you seen the first lambs of the season already? I'm sure there should be a lot. I chose quite a late date. I said 26th of November, but the lambs should have already been dropping by then. Let me know, did you see any lambs dropping? Tell me which camera you saw it on as well. Oh, Alison, you have an excellent question. We're going to head back to Rosie's pan to answer your question because the hippo will still be around, I'm sure. There we go. Okay, Alison, you'd like to say, I'll read out what you said. You said, can we please talk about the Rosie's pan hippo? Is it not strange that this is a solitary fellow? Are hippos not herd social animals? You worry about the hippo and it looks like he's got back lacerations. So, yes, he certainly does look like he has back lacerations. That's also, again, not something uncommon. Lots and lots of hippos have that. Lots of male hippos have that. And that comes from fighting with other hippos. It is not unusual to see him on his own. I have seen many male hippos on their own. What is unusual is to see a female hippo on their own. female hippos live happily in groups, I should say. They tend to form groups quicker than with male hippos. So male hippos, or maybe we should start with what the social structure of a hippo is. Males are the dominant individuals, they hold territory, and they have harems, and they have true harems. And that means that it's a single dominant male and multiple females. All those females belong to him. Now it'll be females and their offspring, of course. But in and amongst those offspring, there'll also be young males. They might also be other sub-adult males that are not the dominant male's offspring, that just really need a place to stay. But in order for males other than the dominant male to be around with his females, they must behave subordinately. And to a certain extent they will, but after a certain age, after a certain amount of testosterone and behaviors kick in, they're going to want to challenge the dominant male. And then what ends up happening is you get these territorial battles. And the dominant male will not tolerate any other male coming into his territory and displaying to him. And if he does do that, there's going to be a fight. So what I think happened here, and it's very common, what I think may have happened here is that this individual was with a different herd, engaged in a couple of fights, you can see the marks in his back, and then had to leave that area and find a territory of his own. Now, smaller pans like this are not really enough to host an entire pod of hippos. It may be fine for 2 individuals, maybe 1 calf, but that's it. And Rosie's pan, we tend to get hippos here occasionally, and I kind of think of it as a stop-off, because as hippos move to different areas and try to find territories of their own, if they've been chased off by a dominant male, or maybe they are a young male looking to find their own territory, which this one doesn't look like, by the way. Looks like he's seen a few years. But in order to keep moving, they have to be able to stop off in little pans where they can rest and where they can give their skin a break. And I think Rosie's pan serves this purpose really, really well. So Ali, there's nothing to be worried about with this hippo. He does look pretty beaten up, but none of those wounds look very fresh. But him being on his own doesn't raise any alarms to me. This is very, very common to see. Oh, you're welcome, Alison. You're welcome. Jarell, you have a quick question. You want to know, what are those soft pads just above the back hooves on the Impalas? Those are called fetlock glands. Spongy little glands, almost look like moles growing on the back of the Impala's legs. But those are called fetlock glands, and it's possible that they give off a pheromone as Impalas run and help them to regroup. But I say it's possible because we don't actually know the true use of the fetlock gland. You're welcome as well, Karu, for answering your Impala question. It was very difficult to do it without you being able to see the different twists and turns I was doing with my hands. Now, Kirst has said to me that you all have seen a few Impala lambs, but no live birth just yet. Hang in there. It could happen at any moment. Guess we would have to be quite lucky, although I think we do tend to be very lucky here on our various cameras. So it could just be. Okay, let's head over to Naledi Dam. We've got some guinea fowl there. Rolling Trouble, you say it's been fun to watch Ellie's or watch the Ellies then with the hippos. It's always fun to see those two interact. Oh, look at this little bird party we've got here. And we've got, oh, this Birchall starling's got something? Or are you just taking nesting material? What's going on there? Nope, just looks like nesting material. What an interesting friend group we have here. Cape turtle dove, Birchall starlings, and some helmeted guinea fowl. I can't say I've seen these three particular species hanging out together previously, but there must be something very nice at that particular patch of mud. Look at the starling. This really is the time to watch birds do unusual things. There's plenty of water around. A lot of the time they've already got nests, or perhaps they're building nests. So you get to see some really interesting behavior. And that's what an abundance of resources does. It takes away I suppose this is true for our lives as well. When resources are not abundant, all your energy goes towards working, making sure your family is okay, making sure that you can get all the things you need done, kind of like in a survival mode. And then once resources become abundant, it leaves more room and more time for the exploration of other things. Oh, look at the Impala coming in. Nice. And sometimes, and I see it with birds a lot, it means a little bit extra play, which I quite like to see. Joni McCauley, hello. You'd like to know how long can a hippo stay underwater before they need to come up for air? So an adult hippo, on average, is going to stay underwater for about 3 to 5 minutes, although some books will say that they can stay under for about 7 minutes. I haven't seen that myself. On average, I've seen about 3 minutes at a time. The young little calves may only be able to stay under for about 40 seconds or so. But it's still a significant amount of time. And it also depends on what they're doing. If they're exerting themselves underwater, then they're probably going to be holding their breath for less than average. If they're just sitting and they're sunk to the bottom of the water body and they're just sitting there, they could probably hold their breath for that full 7 minutes. But like I said, I've not ever seen the 7 minutes. 3 to 5 is what I usually see. And we're back, spending time with our Rosie's pan hippo. Looks like he's got a visitor on his back now. It's a terrapin. Is it a terrapin? Looks like a terrapin. Oh, it's a bird. Now, most usually we would see an oxpecker, but something about this bird looked like a dove, but I've never seen a dove on a hippo's back, so I'm pretty sure it's not a dove. Yep, you can see other oxpeckers around too. I'd like to get a closer look at the back of this hippo. So this hippo is not floating. It's standing. Rosie's pan is not terribly deep, but also hippos don't float. So it must be standing on something, possibly even lying down. Oh, wow. So this is, well, we said this before when you were looking at the hippo. It doesn't look like a young hippo. Whoa, are those some mongoose on the side there? Those are mongoose. On the right-hand side. On the right-hand side of the pan, there looks like there's a whole lot of mongoose. I wonder if they'll come down to drink. I love seeing mongoose come down to a waterhole to drink because it is so hard. So hard. You have to be already seated there for a long time for them not to realize that you were there, for them to come down to drink. Mongoose, whether it's dwarf mongoose or banded mongoose or slender mongoose, they are very, very alert. Oh, Mindy Tilapau, you'd like to know, how does the length of time without air not affect their brain like it does ours? Oh, Mindy, you always ask the best questions. That is a fairly reasonable amount of time, I must say. Nothing would happen to your brain if you held your breath for 3 to 5 minutes. I can hold my breath for 2 minutes and 40-something seconds. I know it sounds like a lot. It sounds unreasonable. But if you try... Oh, do I hear an elephant? Yep. Hippo's not happy. If you train, so I was doing some free diving, and that's when I learned to hold my breath in such a way. There we go. So that's really not a bad amount of time. And remember, it's not that there's a lack of oxygen when you're holding your breath. What your body is responding to is an increase in carbon dioxide. So even though you are holding your breath for 5 minutes, there is not a massive reduction in the amount of oxygen that's in your body. There is a huge increase in the amount of carbon dioxide, and that's what makes us want to breathe. It's actually to let out the carbon dioxide. So the hippo holding its breath for those few minutes, not going to do very much damage. But really nice question. Thank you, Mindy. Oh, I was so hoping to spend some time with elephants this Africam show. These are some of my favorite sounds. I love that when we were watching the hippo, we were nice and close on the hippo. We heard the sound, we all knew what that sound is. It's, and it's not just, it's amazing what your brain can do. It's the sound of falling water, but the height of the water falling and the amount of water falling tells you it's an elephant, not a giraffe, for example. And then the hippo responding by opening up its jaw very widely in a display, a territorial display, showing a little bit of aggression, or not really aggression, showing its dislike for the fact that the elephants have come into its territory, all pointing to the elephants being here. And now the elephants are getting the cold shoulder. Oh, rolling trouble. Yes, I know. You say any Monty sighting? No Monty sighting yet. We are all waiting eagerly. Very, very, very eagerly. I can't wait to see Monty again. After I go fulfill one dream by visiting Jirel in Toronto and seeing a moose, I'm going to fulfill the next dream, which is to see Monty on his branch in person. Seems a little easier than the Toronto moose dream, though, I must say. So this is the nicest way I can imagine to say goodbye to all of you this time round. Well, I'm really enjoying spending this extra time with you, I must say. That gives us some time to really get into it and makes me not feel like I have 1,000 things to say. It makes it very, very chilled. So it's lovely to spend this last 45 minutes with all of you. Thank you so much for joining us, for your questions and your comments as usual. I am so happy to be back with all of you. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you again soon. Bye for now.